In this episode of the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast, it is part 2 of a 2-part series where the Big Board crew, we share our thoughts, our hot takes, and predictions for the 2025 NCAA Tournament. And of course, this is all about how it relates to the NBA Draft. So stay tuned. Big shout out to each and every person that has made the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Rafael Barlowe, and in a few minutes, I will introduce you to the crew, me, James, Richard, and Leif. Again, this is our thoughts, our predictions, our hot takes, some of the matchups we're looking forward to seeing, potential matchups that we could see in the second round, and also Final Four predictions. But before we get into this episode, I want to let you know that it is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. And also, check out the Locked On newsletter at lockedondaily.com. It is your one stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox every single day. And if you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please subscribe, like, share, comment, click the bell. So make sure that you are notified every time we drop an episode, because we are your source for daily NBA draft content. And the NBA draft it's around the corner. It is around the corner. We have the tournament. Next month is the Final Four. Then the pre-draft process starts. Arguably the 2 of the top 3 picks have already started their pre-draft process. But the pre-draft process, then you have the combine, and then next thing you know, it will be the NBA draft. So make sure that you are locked in to the Locked On NBA Big Board YouTube channel or podcast, wherever you get your podcast, whether you're listening on the audio side or watching on YouTube. Either way, thank you for your support. All right, here we go. Part 2 of a 2-part series. All right, here's a question I want to ask Leif about VJ Edgecombe. Leif has been honest that he's not been like the biggest VJ Edgecombe fan. I shouldn't say fan, but he has not been as high on VJ Edgecombe as others. Maybe that's changed since the beginning of the year. My question, we'll start with you, Leif, and we can go around. Is there a chance that if VJ Edgecombe has a strong tournament, let's say he has a monster game in the first round and they win, and they play Duke in the second round, whether they win or lose, but he has a monster performance, will that make up, in your opinion, for the slow start? And could that propel him to a possible number 3 pick in the 2025 NBA draft?
Yeah, to go full circle on this, I was very critical of VJ Edgecombe's non-conference. I thought, what does he actually do well aside from jumping high? Like that was my take. I didn't think he was 6'5". I thought he was 6'3". He shot poorly. He wasn't dribbling. He was just rebounding and getting out in transition. Then in Big 12 play, he started Big 12 play through 12 games, shooting 44% from 3, 87% from the free throw line, and being efficient. And then he had a breakout game in which he got to the rim at will against a very athletic and big Arizona team. So I would say I flipped the script to some degree because I was extremely critical, and I saw the light of, this guy's really athletic. If he can just create separation and use his threat of a drive to step back and hit jump shots and become a better creator, a la what Donovan Mitchell did from Louisville. He wasn't known to be a great shooter. He was known to be an athlete. Like, I'm not saying they're 1-to-1, but like that's possible. So I believed in it. But I think it's possible he's a top 3 pick because I heard from a guy I know that he's been told by a few teams that if they had the 3rd pick, Ace Bailey's not a lock. Like, it seems like 1 and 2 are dead sets, Cooper and it's Dylan. And then 3, everyone says, oh, it's going to be Ace. He talked on the radio here in Salt Lake, this guy, and he talked about mostly in regards to the Jazz, but he said that he knows a couple teams that are in those lottery discussions that say Ace is not a lock to go number 3, and it would be a really long and hard discussion about Ace versus VJ. So I do think it's possible he could propitiate himself up through having a good March Madness beyond where Ace Bailey is, because he's already in those discussions, and it just more tape, probably good tape, as opposed to the 0 tape that Ace Bailey will be putting forth.
What are your thoughts, Richard? Do you think it's a possibility?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we've talked about this, Raf. I mean, like a couple of weeks ago, I think we talked about how I just don't think Ace is a lock at 3. I mean, for me, I have just wide open 3 through 14. I think it's completely interchangeable to certain tiers within that, obviously. But I think overall, you can make the case for a lot of different guys coming for that number 3 spot. VJ, I mean, he plays incredible defense. I think he has a chance to be one of the best defenders in the class that's not named Cooper Flag or really any big. But on top of that, like, I think the shot's going to come along, and say he goes even 3 of 5 from 3 in one of these games, say against Mississippi State, right? And they win. That's going to do a lot for teams that look at the basketball reference page and go, well, he's not shooting a great percentage, but we know we have data points that say he actually can shoot, things like that. I think that's going to be something where GM, who's watching him for the first time in person, potentially says, hey, this might be our guy.
Yeah, Leif mentioned that, he's not 6'5". I don't think it matters that he's not 6'5" because he's such a great athlete. And I also, like we mentioned before, Ralph, I think that number 3, there is a discussion about who is the number 3 pick. But I also think that even if he goes out there and he shoots 6 of 17, I think that he has enough good film out there that you would still entertain him at 3rd. Because, again, he started off slow. He picked it up. He got better in Big 12 play. But also, that summer tape of him playing for the Bahamas is still there. He's still out there playing with Eric Gordon, playing with with Buddy Hield, with DeAndre Ayton, and he was closing out games, hitting big shots for his national team, playing against other pros. So I think that a bad game doesn't necessarily hurt him, but I think a good game, if they win against Mississippi State, or if they do play Duke, I think that will maybe solidify. But I've said since January that I don't think the number 3 pick is a lock to be Ace Bailey.
So I think it's interesting simply because, and we can all share our thoughts on this, he's had some struggles against good opponents in the non-conference schedule. We talked about the Gonzaga game. We talked about the Tennessee game, even though he had good numbers, but they were getting smacked. I think there's one other game that he struggled against. So my question is, what happens if he really struggles? He has a similar type performance against Mississippi State in the first round. Will that hurt him? Because you can say that in some of the bigger matchups outside of conference play that he has not rose to the occasion. Do you think that could possibly happen, Leif?
Yeah, I mean, Mississippi State's got an excellent defender by the name of CJ Matthews that I think could really trouble him. So I don't necessarily think it changes his draft projection, but I do think it's probably more likely he has a tough game in the NCAA tournament than he has a game that makes him, oh, wow, he's ahead of Ace Bailey, or puts him in the discussion of many people saying it. Like, we're talking about it as a possibility. But I think if you asked any one of us who's going to go number 3 without knowing the 3rd team, I think we'd all choose Ace Bailey. And maybe we wouldn't individually rank them there, but I think that's the most likely nonetheless. So I don't think his stock will rise from one game as much as it could fall from one game if he's completely shut down by a bigger, stronger guy like CJ Matthews.
Yeah, I mean, I echo everything that Leif just said. I mean, especially with Cam Matthews, like, that dude is I think I just said VJ might be the best defender, but like of players who their entire stock is dependent on defense, like Cam is that guy. So that's a really good test. I don't know. I go back and forth on where I have VJ. I mean, preseason, I had him 3. Could easily see him sneaking right back in there.
NBA fans, get ready, because if they swoosh, you save thanks to Dash Pass. Every time a player drops 50 or more in a game, you score a huge deal the next day. It is very simple. When any player scores 50 or more in a game during the 24-25 NBA regular season, Dash Pass members will get 50% off an order, up to $10 off the next day from noon to midnight. So if you need a quick and easy lunch the next day with Dash Pass, you can get your favorite meals with 0 delivery fees and reduced service fees. Plus, now you save even more with this exclusive NBA offer. If you're planning to catch the next game, you can order your snacks or meals at a discount and get ready for more high-scoring action. All you have to do is sign up for Dash Pass and be ready to save. When any player scores 50 or more in a game, I think Steph Curry did it. I think James Harden did it recently. I'm sure Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is probably going to have a 50-point game within the next week or so. Dash Pass members get 50% off an order the next day. Again, up to $10 off. Just use the promo code NBA50 from noon to midnight after a 50-point game on eligible orders at participating merchants. You must have an active Dash Pass account. Terms apply. Visit DoorDash to learn more. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's 200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. I've got my eye on a few underdogs this year, and FanDuel makes it easy to back them with spreads, totals, and game props. You can stay in on the action with tournament games happening almost every day. There's always something exciting to bet on, and the FanDuel app is simple to use. And when you win, you get paid instantly. There's no waiting around. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. Again, check it out at FanDuel.com. All right, here's one. We're going to switch it up. In the first four, North Carolina, San Diego State, you have Miles Byrd and you have Drake Powell, two guys that, depending on who you talk to, are first-round picks. Which one do you think has the bigger game, and which one do you think has more to gain or lose from this matchup?
I mean, I think it's Drake's got more to lose. I just feel like a bad outing really, really tanks an already kind of disappointing season, where he was somebody that had some lottery buzz preseason, and then it dropped to like, okay, maybe let's go top 20, and then it was first round, and now he's out of the first round on most mocks and big boards. So I think he's got even more to lose, where it's like, if he has a bad game, there's no chance he's coming out, right? Like, that's just too sour of a taste, I think, for a lot of GMs. Miles Byrd, I don't know, a bad game for him is a lot better of a game than most players' bad games, right? Like, if he goes 1 of 6, his 1 of 6 is better than most guys' 1 of 6. He plays killer defense. He passes. Like, I think there's just so much more that gives him margin for error, whereas Drake just doesn't have that.
See, I agree. But James and I, we've had conversations offline about Miles Byrd, and James has some major concerns. Go ahead, share your concerns about Miles Byrd.
I get the defense. I get the playmaking, but ultimately, like, I think he's sub 33% from three for like the third straight year. And like, that's a big red flag. Now, again, defense can get you on the court, but it's the NBA. You got to make shots. And he just hasn't proven to be able to consistently make shots. To answer your question, though, Rob, I don't know what a Drake Powell good game looks like for him to even come out, because it's just been so up and down. And I feel like at this point, you're drafting him off of what you think he can become based off of like high school tape and some of the flashes, but like his role just at UNC, like that whole UNC team has just been so up and down. I almost think that, I mean, sure, you test to see what kind of feedback you get, but another year at UNC or wherever, even at the portal, I don't think that would hurt him, because I was high on Drake Powell going into the season. I thought he was more than what he ended up playing. I know they got a lot of seniors, and he ended up playing a lot of forward because they had no big men. But I think he does have more to offer. But I mean, like, a good game for him is going to be some corner threes, right? A couple rebounds. Like, I don't see like a monster offensive game that showcases his offensive game, him having that, because it's still the it's the Elliot Cadeau show. It's the RJ. It's his show. Seth Trimble's still gonna do his thing too. So
yeah, he needs to have a repeat performance like he had against Michigan State in the Maui Invitational.
Yeah, but that was how long ago,
Yeah.
Man, it's such a weird one, because San Diego State really is riding the coattails of beating Houston so early in the season, and we talked about how North Carolina is fortunate to make the field. I think it's hard for Drake Powell to have such a standout performance unless he has such a defensively dominant performance against Miles Byrd, in which he shoots a terrible percentage and he is thwarted from getting to the rim and having an impact whatsoever. Then I don't think he can really pop with tape unless he hits like 2 corner threes and really guards. Miles Byrd, I think, can pop because North Carolina is a marquee name, even though they're not very good. If he's going to have a good game and he beats Drake Powell off the bounce, he beats Seth Trimble off the bounce, and knocks down a couple shots, I think I can move him forward a little bit. But like James said, you got to be able to shoot the basketball to make a name for yourself. and he has a lot of usage rate, and that helps him in terms of gaining notoriety because he puts up counting stats. But that's not going to be his role in the NBA. Like, he's not going to be on the ball whatsoever. So if he's got to knock down shots to be an NBA guy, so I am also a bit lower on his NBA prospects.
And I think he was really poor at the rim too, on top of not being able to like shoot the ball. So it's like, okay, you can't make threes and you're not a great rim finisher. Like, the offensive side of the basketball is still very, very important. So I'm a little lower on Milesburg.
Yeah, I had him as a first-round pick. I just see potential. I see a guy that he just reminds me of an Oklahoma City Thunder guy, someone that they would take.
I don't want to be an Oklahoma City Thunder guy. There's no minutes for you.
Well, I mean, they're going to have to make some moves, and they're just going to ship somebody out for some future picks and then bring up the next person. But he just seems like that type of guy that comes along slow, and then all of a sudden you're like, dang, this dude's a rotation player. And it's like, dang, this dude is a good rotation player. All right, let's get right into it. And this is just your opinion. Who is the player that you would love to see have a breakout NCAA tournament, whether it's a couple monster games where he takes his team far, that will basically allow you to pound your chest and say, see, I told you so. All right, we'll start with you, James. I think I can guess, but who's that guy for you that you want to see him have a big tournament so you can be like, see, this, I told you I was right about this guy.
Raf, you were there. Leif, you weren't there. Rich, you weren't there, but you guys were probably there with me mentally. I said it in December that Jeremiah Fears was a top 5 pick. Nobody can stay in front of him. It's just that simple. And I think he's a good playmaker. The turnover's still kind of high, but if he gets a foot in the paint, he's going to create a shot for himself, or he's going to create an open three for a teammate. And he's going to, like I mentioned before, UConn is food on the perimeter. That's going to be a great opportunity for him to get loose there. But second is my other favorite player in this draft, which is Derek Queen. He's prime time itself. Again, that there's concern about, is he this? Is he that? Can he defend? But one thing we know is that dude can play, and he's going to be a tough matchup, especially, again, Grand Canyon, no disrespect to them, but he's probably going to eat somebody's lunch because he's just too talented. If they win that game and they play Memphis, I don't think Dane Danger can guard him. I don't think anybody can guard Derek Queen. So Queen and Fears, I expect my guys to be great. That's what I tell them.
If he plays like he played against Michigan, that's going to silence a lot of critics.
I'll start with the one where, 3 weeks ago, I came on here and I said I have Asa Newell 3. If he has a big game, I feel good about that. The other one, Max Shulga, he's somebody I've had in my top 40 since November. He's a guy, if he beats Yegor Demon, his path is actually really, really strong. He goes against John Tonje at Wisconsin, goes against St. Mary's, so they got a lot of weapons. That's the first 3 games if he gets there, and then the Elite 8, where he could potentially meet Duke, Arizona, one of those 2 teams. I think it's the favorite to get out there. Like, that's a lot of different matchups that he could look really good against. Obviously, he has to win one, but that path to really shining is impressive.
Okay, I got 2 as well. One of these I don't think many people know about. I think Thomas Houck is an easy first-round pick, and no one knows his name. He's the best draft prospect on Florida, and it's not even close.
Over Condon?
I think Condon. I think Condon goes higher, but Houck's better. And I've liked Condon since he was in high school. He almost committed to Utah. I was producing radio, and he did a radio interview, and I watched his film. I was like, oh, this guy's pretty good. Went to Florida, and I was like, that's a good decision. Utah's not very good. But him and Brandon Carlson could have been a pretty good front court. Anyway, I digress. Thomas Houck makes every play the right way. He is the perfect glue guy for any team in the NBA. He's big. He's athletic. He gets every loose ball. Like a 50-50 ball with Thomas Houck in the vicinity is an 80-20 ball. He gets every loose ball. His shot is far better than the percentages would indicate because he's shot significantly better in the best conference in probably the last 20 years. He shoots it very well. He knocks down free throws, makes excellent passes, defends multiple positions, and has every intangible and growth character. Like, if you watch a player and you say, oh, well, he's the same player from point A to point B from the start of the season to the end of the season, then I'm not too sold on them. every time I've watched him since his freshman year, I've liked the way he plays. And then I've seen him improve week by week by week. And I've watched Florida probably 25 times this year. They've played 33 games. I've probably watched 25 plus of them. And Thomas Houck stands out every single time as an NBA player hiding in plain sight. So I'll put you guys on game on Thomas Houck. He's going to be an NBA player. He's going to be a rotation player in the NBA. He's probably going to go back to school because teams won't realize how good he is. But I'm just going to say, when Florida makes the Final Four and potentially cuts down the nets, he's going to be the guy that stands out like, wow, I didn't know he's that good. I think he's that good. And then the second one is Carter Bryant. I think Carter Bryant has the capacity to have a really good run because he doesn't need to put up eye-popping stats. He just needs to show how tall, coordinated, and if he knocks down a couple shots, that's wonderful. And the best thing he can do is if they get to play Cooper Flagg, he guards Cooper Flagg and looks decent in a few of those possessions, he's going to be a top 14 pick. Like, lottery pick is possible for him. Like, I watch him play, and you don't see players that are 6'9" move as agilely as he does. He's able to slide his feet, get over screens, knock down open shots. He's got more to his game than Arizona allows him to display because they play two bigs frequently, and then they have guys like KJ Lewis. They have other guys that attack the rim, and he's kind of just spot up, play defense. He's the true 3-and-D, but I think he's got more to his game than 3-and-D, and he's young, and his body I don't think is fully matured. And he's still that coordinated and fluid.
That sounds like I'm not hating on you, Leif, but if I close my eyes, you gave me that same soliloquy. I think you're talking about Patrick Williams coming out of Florida State.
I like Patrick Williams too.
I did too.
But he's a better shooter than Patrick Williams.
Yeah. I think that was the biggest difference when you like ran the numbers. But as far as just like, ooh, I see what I can do with this, or you see the length. You see the athleticism, you see like just the little things that they do. And I was like, he kind of reminds me of Patrick Williams. And, it hasn't really worked out for Patrick Williams, I guess, considering he was drafted, 4th in that draft. Mm-hmm. But he did get a second contract. But that's who Carter Bryant reminds me of.
That's funny. I want to add something. So I want to say like the year before his freshman year, Patrick Williams came to Dallas to work out. He actually worked out with Tyrese Maxey. And I watched him work out twice, and they had 2-a-days. And everybody that was around was like, you see that guy? This dude is a first-round pick, lottery pick. And I was like, I don't know. I couldn't figure out, like, what exactly did he do well. But everyone was raving about the physical tools and the fact that he was, like, 17 years old. Then he ends up going, like, 4. And I'm like, okay, dang, maybe I did see it. Maybe I'm tripping. But now you see that he's kind of struggling. Even I think what he signed for 90 million, but that's fair that the comparison, like, it sounds like a Patrick Williams scouting report. But here's the scary thing about that also was I talked to an NBA scout at a game probably about a month ago, and he said for his team, if he were choosing, he was like, I don't want us to bring Carter Bryant in for a workout because he is going to look good. He's going to shoot the ball well, and we're going to end up taking him higher than he should go. And I thought that was very interesting because he's not like the key decision maker, but he was saying if it were up to him, don't bring him in because he's going to end up skyrocketing because everyone's going to fall in love with him based off of his workout.
I think his shot looks a lot better than Patrick Williams's, and their body types are slightly different too. But I understand the comparison that they both are playing more sparingly than the body type and Acclaim. He's a 5-star recruit type of thing would say. But I just can't get out of my head how well he moves, how adeptly he navigates screens at 6'9". And typically the guys who are the best defenders that are either young or just perimeter defenders that are big, they're more physically mature. He's still slender bodied. And he makes the shots that are wide open. Patrick Williams didn't do that. He shot 29%, if I want to say, in 2019, and he was a good free throw shooter. So everyone said, oh, he'll learn how to shoot. Like Carter Bryant's knocking down big shots in conference championship games against Houston.
I have a question for the Locked On NBA Big Board listeners. Have you ever checked your bank account and wondered where in the world did all the money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it is very easy to lose track, and that's where Monarch Money comes in. It is your personalized CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. And Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even your long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is now smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and you can stay on the same page without stress. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That is monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year.
The NCAA Tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA Tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
Raf, let me throw another name in the hat. I'm tripping. My fault. Jase Richardson is going to play himself into the top 10 if he's not already into the top 10. Like, he's got too much game, and it's going to translate to March Madness because he's 6'3", and 6'3" guards who can shoot step-back jumpers and can shoot as well as he does. Like, he's going to have a game where it's like he's going to hit every big shot. And he's just going to solidify that, you know what, it doesn't matter that he's 6'3", and he's not a 2, and he's not a 1. He's just a basketball player.
What are your thoughts on that, Richard? Are you a big Jase Richardson guy?
Yeah, I'm a huge Jase Richardson guy. I mean, I have been enamored with his game since high school. I mean, 78% at the rim in EYBL was last year, and he had the highest assist to turnover ratio of everybody in EYBL. He even had a higher assist to turnover ratio than Caden Boozer, who his entire, brand is being that like careful, high assist, low turnover ball handler. Obviously the assist numbers were not as high as Caden's were, but that's the kind of thing where it's like, it has always been there. He looks like the veteran at Michigan State. There's a lot of upside for me. I know I hear a lot of Mike Conley. I don't know if it's because he's a lefty. There is some truth to that of his game where it's like, he's very controlled. He's a savvy veteran, but he's not going to necessarily be a star. But I kind of disagree. Like, I think he's somebody who could easily be a 50, 40, 90 candidate. And to me, that's somebody, most players who are 50, 40, 90 candidates. I know Malcolm Brogdon did it. He's not necessarily a star, but all of them have great careers. And that's somebody that ends up in the top 10 in a redraft.
All right. Which prospect do you think needs a strong NCAA performance to keep or to preserve their current draft stock? Like, which guy may be kind of struggling? He may be on the border between first round pick or having to come back to school. Which one of these guys do you think needs a strong performance?
You know what? I was going to say Yegor, but I think Kasparas Jakachonis needs a big game. I think he's been struggling, and I think that, again, I've been lower on him throughout this process, but I think he needs a big game because Illinois needs him to have a big game. But I think he needs a big game to boost his stock because he's been struggling as of late. Turnovers have been high, and the three ball has just gone to the toilet. But I think he needs a big game for sure.
I like that one. I think that would be ideal for him because there's still believers in his creation ability. I would love to see how high Trey Johnson gets should they beat Xavier and or Illinois, because Xavier, if Illinois plays against Texas, that's the prime matchup. Like, we didn't talk about that. So circling back, I'd love to see how high Trey Johnson is. I talked about this on a previous episode that I thought Trey Johnson you could put the ball in his hands, and he's not Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I want to preface that, but in the way that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is not a point guard by trade, especially when he's coming up. You just have someone who's wired to score, and he's able to handle the ball and make the rudimentary passing reads. I wonder if Trey Johnson can string together winning the first 4 games and winning the first round, how high he can go. Could he crack into that top 3 discussion because of the belief that he can be someone with the ball in his hands? I know that's not exactly the prompt you asked, but it popped in my head because he talked about Kasparas, and then I thought about the matchups. But I've got one that fits your prompt. LeBaron Philon. I think LeBaron Philon is going to go and stay in the draft regardless, but I think his stock could certainly soar because as Alabama has been playing their best basketball in the last month or so, Philon has been inserted as a permanent starting guard. And he's freed up the game for Mark Steers, and it's made it look better, but he's not necessarily putting up dynamic numbers, but he's embraced his role. If he puts up a game with good numbers and Alabama makes a deep run, I think he could elevate his stock into a pretty safe top 20 pick.
I got two completely different perspectives. One is Ian Jackson. He had a really bad conference tournament, the 3 games. I mean, he had an offer. He made one shot in the second game. I think it regressed each game, 2 makes, then 1 makes, then 0 makes. So he really needs to prove like, hey, I can show up on that big stage, get into the actual, that field of 64, or I think, 64, and get in there and, make yourself, you're known. And then I'm doubting my math. I apologize. But into that true second round now or the first round. Then the other is Will Riley. He's somebody who finished the season really hot. I mean, over his last 13 games, he averaged 16 points a game on 48% shooting. So he's somebody where does he continue that momentum, or are the lights a little bit too bright? I'm curious to see what happens there, because that's someone who it's like the stock is going up. Is it just going to crater, or is it going to keep going up, or does it steady out? I think 2 of the 3 are good outcomes for him, but a bad game could really do him in.
Yeah, as far as Ian Jackson, you talk about a roller coaster season. Was coming off the bench, then he had a stretch where he looked like their best player, and then they inserted him in the lineup, and it was like 20, 25, 27 big games, and then it just fell off a cliff. And so I agree with that. Will Riley, to me, he's a first-round pick just because of his size and his shooting. Yeah, the athleticism a little bit worrisome, but he can pass and he has good size. So I think he's a first-round pick. For me, it's Yegor. I just think that, he's just really, really struggled. And he was benched in the Big 12, tournament. I even had an NBA scout tell me, and this was his exact words. He's like, the coach notices that the team plays better when he's off the floor. And he keeps playing him because he knows NBA teams want to watch him. And he is a former NBA coach. He understands the importance of this for, BYU long-term, but he's like, he just feels like the offense actually flows better, and he's not their best player. He said he's not even close to being their best player, which is not anything wrong, because you can be the best prospect on the team and not be the best player. So I think that he needs a strong performance. And then I have a wild card for you. It's a guy that I was super high on last year, and to me, I don't know what he could have done this year to help his stock, because he ended in such a strong way last year. Nobody has mentioned him, and I haven't even talked about him all season long, and we do 5 podcasts a week. But Tyon Grant Foster, he was like 20 points per game last year, was conference player of the year. He's not even their leading scorer this year. It is probably unrealistic, but he's going to need 3 games of how he performed against Alabama last year to even get him back on that radar. But in the Alabama game last year, I think he had 30 something points and just kind of ran out of gas at the end. And right now he just has absolutely no buzz. And I think they play Maryland in the first round. And I think he's going to need a monster performance, because nobody's talking about him. Your final 4. Who are your 4 teams that will be left standing in San Antonio?
Man, right now I'm not confident in it, because I have 3 1 seeds, and that is not the most likely outcome. I just can't figure out where these 1 seeds fall. Like Auburn, I don't actually trust to make it that far, but I just don't see a way they get beat. I got New Mexico in the Elite 8. I just don't think they beat them. And otherwise, right now I got Auburn, Florida, Houston, VCU, and I have Houston winning it all over Florida.
VCU.
I told you that their path is ridiculously easy. The winner of BYU VCU has a really strong path to the Elite 8.
No, they don't.
Okay, so I don't believe. I think I have some concerns with Alabama. I don't buy Wisconsin that much. St. Mary's, Vanderbilt, the winner doesn't scare me a ton. I think if St. Mary's wins, they could give Alabama a good trouble. Duke, is Cooper Flagg healthy? I mean, like, there's a lot of question marks in their way. I mean, Grant Nelson, I'm pretty sure you got hurt. Like, there's a lot of question marks in their route.
I mean, there are, but there's a real chance VCU loses in the first round.
Sure, but like every team has that argument too, especially at the
not
round
the
1,
Final
2,
Four
3.
contenders. I'm hoping you're right, but I disagree with the logic. I haven't made a bracket yet, so I want to preface this could change. But I'm really bothered by how the bracket came out because I've been saying all year there are 4 teams better than the rest, and they ended up being the 1 seeds, and I'm really bothered by that because I hate chalk. I never take chalk, but I really think I'll end up just going with the 1 seeds, and it hurts me to my core. But I really think Auburn hasn't played that well recently, but at the same time, like Richard said, they do have a path that I think is pretty easy to manage and easy to navigate. I think Duke has a very good path, actually, so I disagree on Richard's side on that one. I think Duke's got an excellent path. Florida, I think, has the hardest path, but I think they're the best team in basketball. And then Houston, they play a team in Gonzaga that's ranked in the top 10 in KenPom, but Gonzaga is soft on the interior and Houston's rugged. So I think if they can get through that potentially without Jawan Roberts, who's dealing with an ankle injury, they would make it. The only thing that gives me pause on Houston is Jawan Roberts' ankle. And then Tennessee's a little scary on the other side, but I think Houston's a better version of Tennessee. I hate to do chalk, but I think I got to stick to my brand of saying for the past month and a half that there are 4 teams better than the rest. So I'm going to go chalk.